I've always believed in minding my own business. When I retired from engineering after 30 years designing water systems across the state, I bought a peaceful piece of land outside of town. 40 acres, a stream running right through it, and a modest 2-bedroom cabin overlooking the water. I wasn't looking for neighbors, drama, or trouble. But, of course, the homeowners association next door didn't see it that way. They called themselves the Willow Creek Estates HOA, a gated community that had sprung up just below my property. Their pristine lawns, identical beige houses, and endless community rules were the exact reasons I'd moved out here. I wasn't a part of their development, didn't share any roads, power, or even property lines with them. Still, somehow, they decided I benefited from their services, and that was the start of the chaos. The dues demand. It began with a letter. Dear Mr. Tanner, it read, as a property adjacent to Willow Creek Estates, you are subject to the shared community maintenance fees. Your unpaid balance is $4,822. Failure to pay may result in enforcement action. I laughed out loud. My property wasn't even on their plat map. The stream that ran through my land flowed downhill, passing near their backyards before draining into the municipal wetlands. I'd built a small earthen dam years ago to create a private pond for fishing and wildlife. It was fully permitted, approved by the state, and inspected regularly. But apparently, the HOA believed my dam altered the community's natural water features, which, in their eyes, gave them some right to it. I ignored the letter. Then came another, and another. The third one was hand-delivered by Karen, the HOA president. She was exactly what you'd expect. Short blonde hair, expensive sunglasses, and an aura of authority that reeked of entitlement. Mr. Tanner, she began, standing on my porch with a clipboard, we've sent multiple notices regarding your delinquent dues. I sipped my coffee. I'm not part of your HOA, ma'am. You can take me off whatever list you've got. Her smile faltered. Actually, your dam directly impacts our storm drainage retention. That makes it a shared community feature. The association board has voted unanimously that you're responsible for partial maintenance fees. I nearly spat my drink. You can't vote me into your HOA. Karen crossed her arms. We'll see about that. Escalation. A few weeks later, I got a call from the county inspector. Someone had filed a complaint claiming my dam was unpermitted and unsafe. Luckily, I kept meticulous records. The inspector showed up. I handed him a binder thicker than a phone book, every form, permit, soil test, and hydrology report I'd ever filed. He left satisfied, but the HOA didn't stop. They sent threats of liens, fines, and legal action. Then, I caught 2 men in orange vests on my property, poking around the dam with survey tools. I stormed down there. What the hell are you doing? One of them shrugged. HOA hired us to assess potential community flood risks. I pointed to my private property sign. This isn't their land. Get off. They left, but I knew this wasn't over. The night they went too far. It happened on a stormy Friday night in early spring. I was inside by the fire, reading, when I heard the unmistakable rumble of heavy machinery outside. I grabbed my flashlight, slipped on boots, and ran out. What I saw made my blood boil. A bulldozer, yes, an actual bulldozer, was tearing through the side of my dam. And standing right there in a reflective raincoat, barking orders, was Karen. What are you doing? I shouted over the rain. She turned, looking startled but smug. You were warned, Mr. Tanner. You're in violation of community safety standards and owe the HOA for multiple infractions. We're removing this illegal obstruction before it floods our homes. You can't do this. That dam is mine. She pointed a finger. Then you should have paid your fees. The bulldozer's blade cut another gouge into the embankment. Water started gushing through, muddy and foaming. I ran forward, trying to shut the machine down, but one of the hired workers shoved me back. I called 911, screaming at the dispatcher that people were trespassing and destroying state-approved infrastructure. But by the time the sheriff arrived, the damage was done. Half my pond had emptied into the ravine below, and the stream had swollen into a torrent roaring toward Willow Creek Estates. The calm before the real storm. The next morning, the HOA was celebrating. Karen had posted photos on their Facebook page with the caption, "Greater than, HOA board successfully removed an unpermitted dam posing a risk to community safety. Homeowners can rest easy knowing we took decisive action." They were proud of themselves. I wasn't. When the sheriff questioned them, Karen handed him a folder full of bogus ordinances and environmental concerns. The county eventually ruled it a civil dispute, meaning I'd have to sue them. I did more than that. Engineering my revenge. You don't spend 3 decades as a civil engineer without learning a thing or two about hydrology or about consequences. The dam had been built properly. Even with the damage, the system would stabilize, and I could rebuild. But what the HOA didn't realize was that their development was built below a natural floodplain, one that my dam had been protecting them from. Without that retention barrier, spring melt and rainfall had nowhere to go except right through their neatly manicured backyards. I could have warned them. I really could have. But after what they did, no chance. I spent the next week documenting everything: photos, timestamps, witness statements, and even drone footage of the damage. I filed an official report with the state's Water Resources Department, noting that unauthorized parties had tampered with a permitted structure. Then I called my insurance company, explained what happened, and they immediately classified it as vandalism and negligence by third parties. That same week, a major storm system rolled in, one of those multi-day downpours that makes rivers run brown and furious. The flood. It started with rain. By the second night, the ground was saturated, and runoff from the hills above began pouring into the broken dam site. The water roared down the newly opened channel, straight toward the Willow Creek subdivision. From my porch, I watched through binoculars as their retention pond overflowed, then their backyards turned into lakes. I could hear sirens in the distance, see flashlights darting across lawns as homeowners scrambled to save furniture from their basements. By morning, it was chaos. The creek had become a full-blown river, sweeping fences, lawn furniture, and even a few vehicles downstream. I walked down to the county road where emergency vehicles were parked. Karen was there, drenched, shouting at firefighters. "This is your fault," she screamed when she saw me. "You built that dam wrong." I folded my arms. "You mean the dam you destroyed?" She blinked, sputtering. You can't prove." "Oh, but I can." I pulled out my phone and showed her the video I'd taken that night. Her, in the rain, standing next to the bulldozer, yelling, "Take it down." Her face went pale. The fallout. The county declared a state of emergency for the area. Several homes were uninhabitable. Roads were washed out. Power lines had collapsed. Meanwhile, my property, higher up and properly drained, remained untouched. The state investigator visited again, and this time, he wasn't smiling politely. He was furious. "They destroyed a permitted flood control structure," he said. "That's felony-level negligence. The HOA's insurance didn't cover intentional property damage." Their legal fund evaporated fast under the weight of claims from their own homeowners, who now realized the flood wouldn't have happened if Karen hadn't interfered. Within 3 months, Willow Creek Estates filed for bankruptcy. Several board members resigned. Karen tried to blame the contractors, but the bulldozer company produced her signed work order authorizing emergency removal of unapproved structure. The county sued the HOA for damages to public infrastructure. Homeowners sued the HOA for property loss. And I sued the HOA and Karen personally for trespassing, destruction of property, and endangerment. The courtroom. 6 months later, we met again, this time in court. Karen tried to put on her usual air of authority, but her lawyer was sweating bullets. My attorney presented drone footage, emails, Facebook posts, and even the permit records showing that the dam was fully approved and inspected. When the judge saw the video of Karen shouting orders to the bulldozer crew, he leaned back and said, "This is the most reckless display of arrogance I've seen in 20 years. He ruled in my favor on every count. The HOA was ordered to pay $480,000 in damages to me, plus the costs of rebuilding the dam and restoring the stream. Karen herself was held personally liable for a portion of the damages, given her direct involvement. When she tried to protest that she was acting in the community's best interest, the judge replied, "You acted as if you were above the law, and your neighbors paid the price." Rebuilding. It took nearly a year to rebuild the dam, stronger, higher, and with reinforced spillways. The state helped expedite permits, given the circumstances, and even contributed to some of the funding since the structure now served as an official flood control measure for the area. As for the Willow Creek estates, half the homes were sold off as is to developers who turned them into rental cabins. The HOA was dissolved entirely. The remaining homeowners formed a volunteer committee to manage basic maintenance. No dues, no board meetings, and no Karens. One day, while overseeing the final inspection of my rebuilt dam, I noticed a familiar car parked by the old subdivision entrance. Karen stepped out, wearing plain clothes, looking years older. "I lost everything," she said quietly. "My home, my savings, my position." I nodded slowly. "You destroyed something that wasn't yours. Actions have consequences." She looked out at the water. "It was just a dam." I met her gaze. "No, it was the line you weren't supposed to cross." Epilogue. Now, when the sun sets behind my dam, the reflection of the water glows golden still. The frogs croak, the herons fish, and the land feels peaceful again. Sometimes, new hikers pass by and ask why the neighborhood below looks half abandoned, with cracked roads and ghostly driveways. I tell them the truth. Their HOA tried to mess with nature, and learned the hard way you can't outvote a flood. And every time a storm rolls in and the rain starts to fall, I pour myself a cup of coffee, sit on my porch, and watch the water rise just enough to remind me how close arrogance can bring a person, or an entire community, to sinking.